Everyone tells you how to fix your self-worth. Practice affirmations, meditate, be kind to yourself. But what if the problem isn't what you're not doing? It's what you're still doing that's quietly destroying it. I learned that the hard way, so I'll save you the trouble. I'm gonna share with you the 5 things I stopped doing that completely changed how I see myself and my relationship with myself. For most of my life, my self-worth was tied to how much I achieved, how cool and polished I look, how likable I was, whether people liked me. I thought if I could just do enough, be nicer, work harder, keep the peace, then I'd finally feel like I was enough. But that mindset only made me more anxious, burnt out, stressed, and honestly disconnected from myself. I, somewhere along the line, forgot who I was, and that also impacted my self-esteem, how I saw myself. So yes, learning new habits definitely helped me in my self-love journey, don't get me wrong, but that wasn't the turning point for me. It was letting go of the habits that were disconnecting me from who I truly was. First, I stopped attaching my worth to achievement and productivity. Since I was young, I was trained to tie achievement and productivity with my self-worth. I know my parents meant well and that they would love me regardless. But my parents always told me to study hard, get good grades, always try to be the best. And when I did that, I would get praised. I would get rewarded. So somewhere along the line, I started associating achievement with love, with being seen. And even though I said my parents loved me anyways, my brain didn't understand that message at the time. I became a perfectionist, staying up late, overstudying for exams. And then once I graduated college and started working in corporate, that evolved to overworking, taking on more projects, and constantly feeling like I needed to prove my value. If I wasn't getting promoted, then that meant that there was something seriously wrong with me, and maybe I wasn't even good at my job. Those were the thoughts that I was constantly having. It wrecked my mental health. I was anxious. I was constantly stressed. I was having panic attacks a lot more frequently. I remember days where I would be crying driving to the office just because I was already overwhelmed about all of the work that I would have to do because I said yes to so many things in order to prove that I can do this. Until one day I realized the harder I worked, the more I chased achievement, the less I actually liked myself. I felt like I was constantly on the verge of an anxiety spiral. I would lash out and be snippy with people because of the overwhelming stress I was constantly subjecting myself to. And it wasn't until my mom landed in the hospital for an emergency several years ago that it hit me. What the hell am I doing? My priorities are so messed up. And I kept thinking back to all of the times that I put off going to visit my parents and spend time with them, or the times that I canceled dates with my now fiance, Ben, because I just had to stay in the office a little longer. I had to finish up this work that honestly could have waited till the next day. But because my worth was tied to productivity and achievement, I let that take over my life. And in that moment, when I was worried, like, what if something horrible is happening to my mom? And this happened while I was at work and I had to rush to go to the hospital. I had all of these thoughts thinking like, I've put my family and friends on the back burner to chase achievement. It was such a mindset shift. Sometimes big things need to happen in order for you to wake the hell up, and trust me, that moment was a major wake-up call for me. And that's when I started saying no. Like, no, I don't have the time to do that. I'm not going to take on that extra work. Actually, I have plans tonight, so I have to leave the office at 5. I stopped tying my achievement to my self-worth and my value. And ironically enough, when I finally got promoted, it wasn't because I was overworking myself and burning myself out. It was when I had actually found balance and learned that my value is not tied to my output. It's in the quality of my output and my expertise. Now I always remind myself, I'm not valuable just for being productive. I'm valuable just for being me and being true to myself. Also, a quick pause in this video. This is Anya. She's 19 years old and she's a little baby, right? She's been with me through all of this. She's seen it all, right, girly?
You're so sweet. She's the cutest.
She'll be hanging out here on my lap as I'm recording this. Second thing I stopped doing, I stopped surrounding myself with people who made me question my self-worth. I've talked about this before in previous videos, and it is really important. When I was insecure, I accepted any friendship because I didn't love myself yet. Actually, I kind of hated myself, guys, if I'm being really honest. So I depended on others to make me feel like I was enough. I was outsourcing self-love, which isn't true self-love. And as I got into my 20s and I started working on my confidence in accepting myself, I realized not everybody grows with you and not everybody is for you, but I still clung to certain friendships even when they made me feel small. There were so many times where I would get home after hanging out with a friend and feeling drained. Like, why do I feel worse after hanging out with them? Because the truth of the matter is, not all people are meant to stay in your life forever, and that's okay. And not everybody that you would initially consider a friend has your best interests in mind. I feel like we've all been there, having a friend that is always trying to one-up you, or that gossips about you, or that puts you down, or only shows up when they need something from you. I have experienced it all. And trust me, letting go wasn't easy. But once I realized the impact that these people were having on my journey to loving myself, I realized it was time to let them go. Sure, I felt bad. There was some guilt. I felt lonely, but that loneliness also brought me more peace. And a lot of times, a lot of us overstay in relationships, any kind of relationships, because we make excuses for people. Oh, well, that's just the way they are. Not an excuse if they make you feel bad about yourself. Or we've just been friends for such a long time. They've been in my life forever. Yeah. Still not an excuse. Once I slowly released those connections, I started making space for the ones that lifted me up. The people who celebrated me without competition or comparison. Now, my rule is simple. If I have to shrink myself to fit in the room, then I don't belong in this room. Number 3, I stopped trying to be the cool girl. For the longest time, I thought being the cool girl would make me likable. You know, unbothered, easygoing, never upset. If you've never read the book Gone Girl or watched the movie, there is a really great monologue by the main character talking about pretending to be the cool girl and acting like a cool girl. You should definitely read it or watch the movie, because I resonated a bit with it, because I thought bottling up my emotions and keeping the peace and being cool would be better for everybody and would make me more likable. But really, it just made me disconnected. And I honestly think it's because after I was depressed in high school and I overcame my depression, I was scared of feeling sad, of feeling vulnerable, of crying in front of others. So I bottled that up. I pretended to be the cool girl who was fine. Nothing gets to me. I'm unshakable. At work, with friends, in relationships, but all it did was made me feel frustrated and resentful for not speaking up for myself, for not voicing when something did upset me, because I was constantly abandoning my emotions just to keep the peace. The day I learned that all emotions are valid, no matter how you initially perceive them as negative, it changed everything. I stopped seeing my sensitivity as a flaw and started seeing it as my compass, as my strength. Now I don't strive to be chill or cool. I strive to be real. What truly matters is respecting your feelings enough in order to express them. Fourth thing I stopped doing, I stopped waiting for confidence in order to take action. This is something else I've spoken a lot about before, and it's truly helped, funnily enough, boost my confidence. Because for years, I felt like I needed to be perfect, have all of the answers before I did anything, before raising my hand in class, before starting a new project at work, before trying anything new that was outside of my comfort zone. And because of that, I overthought everything. I was terrified of failing at anything, going back, right, to my constant need to achieve and be productive. That ties in really well together. It's a perfect pair. Always needing to feel perfect before you do anything and tying your worth to achievement. Oh, they go so well together, but they're also extremely detrimental to your self-worth. And I remember my point of view started shifting one day after I attended this leadership training for work, of all things. And I remember the presenter said something that stuck with me. You weren't always good at everything that you're good at now. You were actually probably not that good at it at all. You had to learn, make mistakes, go through some trial and error. But now you're good at it and you're comfortable with it. And it really stuck with me. I was like, that is so true. Things that I'm good at now, I didn't even know how to do before. And yet now I'm confident in it. It was a major wake-up call for me again, because I realized the risk of not taking action isn't failure. It's never finding out if you could have succeeded. It's in the what if, in the possibilities, what could have happened if you actually had the courage to take that action. So I started challenging myself to take the first step, even if I was scared. And you know what? Every single time I did it, I built a little bit more self-trust. I started building up my confidence in myself. And by doing that, I started collecting data. And whenever I would get in my head and start getting worried, I remind myself, well, remember the time that you did this and you thought you would fail and you freaking figured it out. So now I tell myself, confidence isn't something I wait for. It's something I build through proof. Failing doesn't make you a failure. It just means you were brave enough to try. And the fifth thing I stopped doing, I stopped comparing myself to others. I used to compare myself to others, especially other women, all the time. Oh, she's so much prettier than me. Oh, she's so much more successful. Her life is so much better than mine. She has it all. But that habit did nothing but tear me down. And the funny thing is, guys, is that we never know the full story. The same person that I'm comparing myself to may be sitting there thinking, I'm the one who has it together, and maybe sitting there comparing themselves to others as well and beating themselves down. We're all insecure about something. We all have our different insecurities that we've experienced through life. The problem is that when we're comparing ourselves to others, we're comparing different chapters of our lives. Our journeys are all so extremely different. Yes, there may be experiences that overlap, but just because somebody else is at one area of their journey doesn't mean that you have to be in lockstep with them. We all grow, we all learn at different rates, and it's also okay to pivot off the path you're on and go in a completely different direction. Like, I remember getting upset and insecure about myself when my friends were getting promotions and I still hadn't gotten promoted yet at my job, even though they didn't even work in the same company as me or even the same field or industry. Like, make that make sense. I was comparing myself to somebody who had an extremely different area that they were working on in a completely different company. And I'm thinking, well, why has she gotten promoted already and I haven't? It's not the same thing. That's when I realized the only person I should be comparing myself to is myself, because my story, my pace, my experiences, they're unique to me. And it's hard, especially if we see somebody who's achieved something that we've dreamed of or that we aspire to do. I know that envy can kick in, and that comparison might kick in where you're thinking, well, will I ever be able to do that? What does that person have that I don't? Like, why are they so much farther ahead than me? When I catch myself comparing and doing that, I remind myself, she's not my competition. She's proof that it is possible. There is room for all of us, and nobody can do my journey better than me. Every time I stop doing one of these things, I abandon myself a little less. And honestly, that's the truth about self-worth. It's not always about new habits and new things that you can do to build it up. It's something that can start growing once you stop giving yourself away. And if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You don't need to prove, perform, or perfect your way into feeling worthy. You were born worthy, and every time you choose yourself, you remember that. Now, it's time for your mirror moment, a little moment of self-reflection. Who would you be if you stopped trying to prove yourself? Think about it for a bit, because that version of you, she's already in there. She's just waiting for permission to take up space again. But fair warning, once you do, people will notice. Some will be inspired, others will be triggered. So if you're ready to stay grounded and stop reacting to other people's nonsense or BS, go watch my next video where I talk about how to stop letting people trigger you, because it's one thing to know your worth and another to not let anyone shake it. I'll see you there. Thank you for watching. Love you.
Say bye, Anya. You wanna say bye?